Here I am sharing with you my touching base with my Hermit for 2019. So in my first video about the major arcana for 2019 for me, which is the Hermit, I will put a link up here and the eye in the sky as well at the end of this video. I showed a couple of cards, two of some of my most favorite depictions of the Hermit, and I mentioned in that video, if you recall, this Hermit here from, is this Fina della Torre? I keep confusing the two. No, this is La Corte dei Tarocchi. This is the one that was published by Il Meneghello, and the artist passed away. The Fine della Torre is the Hermit with the wings, and he's resting on crutches, and there's a column that's rising behind him, or that's standing tall behind him, and that's published by the Museum of Tarot in Italy, I believe. So this is La Corte dei Tarocchi. That's the depiction of the Hermit here, and I remember telling you about how there's this depiction of someone with a cloak, which is cloak, lantern, and walking stick or staff. Those are the three items that is often described in Golden Dawn based depictions of the Hermit. And if you recall, I describe how the figure is walking away from a community, from a society. They're leaving that behind into this vast nothingness here, at least for the moment. And if you recall, I also mentioned Lady Frida Harris's depiction of the Hermit for Crowley's Thoth tarot, and I mentioned the wheat Cerberus over here, which showed up in the Hermit's depiction by Robin Scott in the Urban Tarot, which I shared with you in that video. That's the three-headed dog, which guards the underworld, and the Hermit is climbing back out into the outer world, or the above world. And that idea of Persephone being half the time out with her mother, the goddess of harvest, who is often depicted with wheat around her, and half the time Persephone is with Hades, the god of the underworld, her husband. And how in this depiction I see the Hermit climbing back out from the underworld, and there's this cosmic egg, and I'm not entirely certain of the significance of cosmic egg. I haven't really researched it. It's a simple matter of Googling, really, but and what looks like a sperm here, which to me is that new beginning. It's the start of a life. And so I did mention this idea of the Hermit returning back into the world. If this Hermit is leaving, this Hermit is coming back into the world. And before I carry on, the Hermit with the wings and the crutches is that going through something, that broken one aspect of the self, and arising back up, renewed by the very deterioration and destruction of another aspect of the self, if that makes sense. And I communicated to you guys that in the tradition of the old country that I grew up with, there is always stories about this, not only a hermit as in moving away from society and the material world, but this idea of pratapaan, this idea of the hermit sitting still, alone in a cave with no food, with no water, this kind of complete denial of the material existence, while still being very much a physical being. In these stories, and I think they are rooted in reality, a bit like the yogis, those yogis where they rise. One yogi I heard of rose his hand, and he never put his hand down, so much so that he's deformed, but that pushing the boundary of the physical and the spiritual, that's the kind of stories that I grew up with. And these stories aren't just folk tales or fairy tales. They are somewhat rooted in a belief that somewhere, someplace, this truly exists. And so those stories always involve the hermit coming back to society, but transformed into this extraordinary being who have transcended the borders between the material and the immaterial. And I see that hermit over here climbing back out. Well, this is the hermit that's going away. This is the hermit that's emerged from his hermitage, or as we call it when I was growing up, emerging from his pratapaan. So I want to share with you the Golden Dawn hermit here, which is, there's a variety of Golden Dawn based tarot decks, and this is just one. This is the Golden Dawn Tarot by Robert Wang. And I want to quickly share with you his description of the hermit. The man wrapped in hood and mantle and carrying a lantern to illuminate the path and a staff to support his footsteps. He is the eternal seeker, the pilgrim soul. His hood and mantle are the brown of earth, and above him is the night sky. But the delicate yellow greens and bluish greens of spring are about him, and spring is in his heart. So that idea of spring, that idea of the returning from winter, that idea of spring returning from the winter, that idea of returning from the underground. Well, this one's sort of his way out, and put that aside for now. And I would like to read something out from this book here by Lonmilo Duquette about the hermit. Where is it? I'm not going to read out the whole thing because it's pretty long, but there's this funny excerpt from a letter from Harris to Crowley from November 30th, 1939. Why don't you like my 8th question? Is it because you don't know the answer? As you can see, Frida Harris is no subordinate of Crowley. She's a true partner in the creation of this deck, and I quite like that, actually. And so there's a quote here: "Wander alone, bearing the light and the staff, and be the light so bright that no man seeth thee. Be not moved by aught without or within. Keep silence in all ways." In the Tree of Life, which I know nothing about, it is path 20, joining the Chesed. I think that's how you pronounce that. I do apologize for my pronunciation. So joining mercy, Chesed, to Tifereth, or beauty. Joining mercy to beauty. Colors are green, yellowish. slate gray, green gray, and plum. So that's the colors associated with the the Hermit. That's an interesting slip, the devil, because this has been the book says to look at this in conjunction with the devil, because the Hermit is the descent into matter, and the devil is the lord of the gates of matter. So, and again, just to show you the colorings there, the sort of grayish green and plum. There it is. So I'll put that there again. So at the end of the section discussing the Hermit in Duquette's book, he said you may find it rewarding to study the Hermit trump in conjunction with Atu 15, the devil. It says here the original design is a figure of Pan or Priapus. Levi's Baphomet is sound commentary on this mystery, but should not be found in the text, it says. And the Tree of Life is path 26, joining beauty with splendor. Just now, the Hermit was joining mercy and beauty. This one, beauty and splendor. Tifereth and Hod. The colors for the devil are indigo, black, blue-black, cold dark gray, and nearing black. So this is one here. This is the AGM Urania's edition, the high-def, digitally remastered from 2008 by the owner of the images, the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis. Unfortunately, it's only available, as you can see there, in German. I won't get into why it's not available in English, and I won't get into why OTO, the owner of these images, are not able to publish these high definition, digitally remastered images in English. So here is the devil, and I'll talk about the devil specifically some other time. There's all these images here. I just want to leave it here for now. And the devil and death are two major arcana cards that I always check out before I decide whether a deck is for me or not. So what I want to quickly share is what it says about the devil as the lord of the gate of matter. This card represents creative energy in its most material form. In the zodiac, Capricornus occupies the zenith. It is the most exalted of the signs. It is the goat leaping with lust upon the summits of earth. In this sign, Mars is exalted, showing in its best form the fiery material energy of creation. The card represents Pangenitor, I have no idea how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. The all-begetter, beginning of material existence. The ultimate manifestor, I guess. And then there's another quote here. The formula of this card is then the complete appreciation of all existing things. He rejoices in the rugged and the barren, no less than in the smooth and the fertile. All things equally exalt him. He represents the finding of ecstasy in every phenomenon, however naturally repugnant. He transcends all limitations. He is Pan, he is all. And so I found that interesting as this idea of, as the gate to the material, as the gate to materialization. As I think, if I quote that correctly, it is the Lord of the goat. It is the Lord of, what does it say the title is? He is the Lord. He is Lord of the gates of matter. Lord of the gates of matter. So the Hermit is the descent to matter, from immaterial to material, I'm thinking. He's coming back into the material world, and the devil is the Lord of the gates of matter. I can see why, at least in the Thoth system, it's fruitful to see them together. And how does this have anything to do with my reflection on the Hermit? Is, if you remember from my last video, I mentioned that I believe this year for me, what has been highlighted to me, given all the context that I'm taking into consideration, is that this is not the Hermit leaving, but this is the Hermit returning. I'm going to close with a reading from the introduction, an introduction to the Golden Dawn Tarot. So I've read it out just now, the Hermit, so I'm going to read out the Devil, really. I beg your pardon. So it says here, this card should be studied in conjunction with number 13. They are the two great controlling forces of the universe, the centrifugal and the centripetal, destructive and reproductive, dynamic and static. The lower nature of man fears and hates the transmuting process, hence the chains binding the lesser figures and the bestial forms of their lower limbs. Yet, this very fear of change and disintegration is necessary to stabilize the life force and preserve continuity. The colors are indigo, livid brown, golden brown, and gray. So that's the Golden Dawn Tarot by Robert Wang. There's a few, as I said, there's a few Golden Dawn Tarot. This one is this one here by Robert Wang. But I'm really focusing on the fact that we are returning to matter, returning to the material world, and how it's related to death, how it's related to death, the dying of something, and the emerging of something else. And in a way, it's like death is over here, you re-emerge, you materialize, and then you leave the material, you come back in, and then you come back out. It's like, and then you rematerialized, and it's like a cycle at the moment for me. And death is one of my birth cards. So emerging to the material, leaving the material. It's like being purified through destruction, being purified through the shedding of the material in order to re-emerge and rematerialized in a different way. It's almost as if in here I also see that spiritual, personal, emotional alchemy, where you are shedding the iron and you're completely destroyed and you re-emerge as gold, and then a cycle sort of continued. Maybe from gold you are destroyed and re-emerge something else that's more valuable than gold. I don't know. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on the matter for now, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.